Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our major stories. APC calls for thorough investigation into the shooting of a former lawmaker, Opeyemi Bamidele, and another supporter in Ado-Ekiti, as state government distances itself from the incident. At least 12 people feared dead following an attack on mourners in Jire local government area of Adamawa State, as 15 others are reported dead in Zamfara State. Residents of Local Goma in the Federal Capital Territory Abuja cry out over the terrible state of their roads. And Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi sworn in for a second term following an election in which all major opponents stepped down. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can see our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. And besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an eyewitness feature, so you can use it to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. The United Nations recommended the budgetary benchmark of 26% to enable countries of the world cater for increasing education demand. But the 2018 appropriation bill recently passed by the National Assembly and signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari allocated only 7.04% of the 8.6 trillion budget to the education sector. In our assessment of the Buhari administration tonight, we turn our attention to the nation's education sector.
Nigeria's education sector continues to be in the news largely due to what many ascribe to falling standards in the sector, resulting in poorly equipped graduates not prepared for today's demand in the labor market. The issues of low primary and secondary school enrollment in parts of the country, as well as inadequate infrastructure in schools, also constitute major setbacks.
The education sector in Nigeria, I think, is just the same. It doesn't look good. On a very serious note, it has just been the same. No any improvements.
I've seen a couple of improvements, especially the school feeding, project, which has reduced the number of out-of-school children.
A total sum of 605.8 billion naira is allocated to the sector in the 2018 budget, out of which 435.1 billion naira is for the recurrent expenditure, while 61.73 billion naira is for capital expenditure and 109 billion naira for the Universal Basic Education Commission. This amount remains a far cry from the funding requirement for the sector.
There is falling standard of education, and since we came into office, we have been battling to start the process of raising it up.
The minister explains the steps being taken by the federal government to remedy the situation.
We have the effort to improve basic education, and then the reforms in tertiary education.
Honorable Parry.
The House of Representatives Committee on Tertiary Education has also stepped in to rescue the situation through the inclusion of private universities in the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. But this is being resisted by some stakeholders.
If ETF, the precursor to TET Fund, was established to arrest rot and decay and was established to avoid government from charging tuition fee, how could tuition charging institution ask to draw from TET Fund?
If you have 7.1% living under the poverty line, how many of them can afford to send their children to private universities.
Although the 605 billion naira allocated to the sector in the 2018 budget is higher than the 550 billion naira allocated to the sector in 2017, there is a decrease in percentage terms. This decrease, apart from widening the gap with respect to the UN recommendation, is also in spite of government's resolve to increase spending on education following the industrial action embarked upon in 2017 by the Academic Staff Union of Universities that led to the closure of government-owned universities for 5 weeks from August the 13th to September the 18th that year.
Now let's examine further the issues surrounding education in Nigeria, and I'm now being joined on the News at 10 by a Professor of Education from the University of Lagos, Professor Aloy Ejiogu. You're welcome to the News at 10.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score the Buhari administration in terms of education?
That's a very funny question. Are we talking about education at the federal level? Education in Nigeria is a concurrent subject. And most of the time we think that it's just federal government that has to do with education. I listen to many people talking about 7.8% budgetary allocation to education. We're talking at the federal level.
Yes.
Don't the states budget for education? How much do they budget for education? Education is on a concurrent list. And if we merely evaluate what is happening at the federal level, we're not doing justice to the system.
But I just want to look at the Buhari administration, so we're looking at more federal level. How do you think they have done when it comes to education in Nigeria?
I don't think the problem is with the percentage. The problem we have in this country is the utilization of whatever is budgeted. Even the 7% or 8% or 6%, or even if you make it 22%, what is more important is the application of the money. Our problem in Nigeria today is that even the little that is budgeted, where does it go? Do we hold Buhari administration responsible for non-utilization, improper utilization, misappropriation of whatever fund is available? I think we have a knack in this country to merely look at the government always. How about the institutions? Where does the money go? Paying for extra codes, for travels, people going on spending spree, conferences that are not of any value. So the figure per se is not the issue with me, but to what extent do we even utilize appropriately what is budgeted? That is my problem.
Would you say they have managed to utilize what is budgeted?
I don't think so. Because much of this money goes, like I say, into personnel costs, into some frivolities. Not things that are developmental, not things that would, in fact, impact on the educational system per se. Much of the money goes into maintenance of offices, maintenance of personnel, travels, having things, I don't know. I don't want to say anything that's not printable.
But Prof, if I may come in here, but with programs like the school feeding program, for instance, which this administration introduced, the number of out-of-school children, especially in the northern part of the country, is said to be dropping.
The out-of-school is dropping or increasing?
Most people are now willing to want to go to school.
Okay, that's very good. That's a very good development. But I must remind us that school dropout of students or participation is a factor of the home, the school factor, the teacher factor. Children may be properly fed. If the teachers are not handling them well, they will not come to school.
So you think that that's...
We should go further than just providing food. And even the food itself. Have you seen it? Have you seen it on television? Those women that feed those children with all those stuff, Would they allow their children to eat the same stuff at home? It's just a mere gimmick. Playing to the gallery.
Okay, now, Prof, can we look at the standard of education in Nigeria? Compared to other countries, Nigeria is still lagging behind. Who do you blame for this?
I don't agree that Nigeria is lagging behind. The standard of education in Nigeria is not as bad as we tend to portray. Because in this country, we don't see anything good in us. Nigerians have the best of scholars in the world. Professors in Ghana, Nigerians account for over 36% of them. Go to any other country in Africa, they are Nigerians. Nigerians are building up their system. We have good system of education. Our products are good enough. Not all of them are good.
Because I know you mentioned the teachers. Some of them still need training.
That's right. And I've always argued that university education is not basic education. University education is not education for everybody. University education is for those who can, who have the capacity, who have the ability, who have the aptitude, who have the attitude, who have the interest to pursue higher education. But here we're making it a universal type of provision for everybody. You go to a state governors don't pay any heed to secondary education, nor to primary education, which are the roots of higher education. Can you imagine a state that does not maintain an existing state university? The governor will go to his village and establish another state university or change the name in his own name. It is fraudulent. It is corruption also. Corruption not just about money. Such people should even be arrested. They are not doing any service. And each time we talk about the federal government, what are the state governments doing? Maybe Lagos State, maybe Ogun State. They are very familiar and they are working, and we see the impact of what they are doing. Go down the east, go down the south, go to the north. What are the governors doing with the money they get? What is their own budget for education? You listen to them, they will show you buildings that are not furnished, buildings that are not habitable. And the governor will come on television and tell the world, oh, this year I have built 360,000 classroom spaces. What are in those classrooms? Are there desks? Are there boards? Are there facilities? Are teachers encouraged? I am in Faculty of Education. We bring out trained teachers. Do they employ them? No. Would they want to employ them? No. And they talk about falling standard of education. They talk about federal government. For goodness sake, let everybody watch the doorstep of his own house, and the whole world will be safe.
Thank you so much, the Professor Aloy Ejogu, for speaking with us on the News at 10. And to other stories. The Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, is of the opinion that the best leaders can do is to provide the needed infrastructure for the people. During the commissioning of a series of projects in Delta State, he also commended the Governor, Ifeanyi Okowa, for what he called a good job in ensuring an even development in the state.
An excited crowd welcomes Governor Ifeanyi Okowa in company of the Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu to Nsukka town in Delta State. They are here to commission the 23-kilometer Nsukka and Demili Road and Agbo Alidima Road, passing through 4 local government areas in the state.
To the glory of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
They moved to the Bonsak area in Asaba, the state capital, and again, the people welcomed them excitedly. The governor then tops the excitement with a promise to provide more infrastructure, this time in the area of education.
We have been able to find land in this area, and we have already given an approval for the construction of Odoge Secondary School.
Next is the inspection of the stormwater drainage to tackle the perennial flooding in the state, followed by the groundbreaking ceremony of the multi-billion naira State Central Secretariat, which when completed will house ministries, departments and agencies. The climax of this tour is the commissioning of the library complex, a project which began in 2007 and completed by the Okowa administration.
Development must be even, and I can see that that is happening in Delta State. So I want to commend him for the good work he's doing, for his commitment to work, and the people of Delta for the support they've given him. And we believe that to him much is given, much is also expected.
With these few projects ready for public use, the people will be looking to the government to fulfill other promises made.
When the news at 10 returns, about 215 billion naira inflows from maturing open market operation bills expected to boost system liquidity in Nigeria's money market next week. That's on Business News. Join us again.